Also with me is Professor Omer Moav, a professor of economics at Reichman University here in Israel and the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. Thank you for being with me here this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Now, hundreds of thousands of reservists have been called up, a massive chunk of Israel's workforce too. Explain a bit how a country like Israel would be able to survive a prolonged war like this. Would there be a need for some kind of Middle East Marshall Plan to help Israel's economy?
Well, the question actually depends on what the government will do. If we had a responsible government that realizes the economic challenge and responds in the right way, then of course this is a strong hit, and of course we will all, as citizens of Israel, pay a high price. But I don't think there is any, just the war itself is not a threat to the Israeli economy in the longer run. The problem is we have a government which still continues spending money and just increasing more and more spending on things that are unrelated to the needs of the country at the moment, the coalition agreements. So while soldiers are fighting and while businesses are collapsing, they're just pouring tons of money, milliards of shekels, with commitments to the futures of tens of millions of shekels to the ultra-Orthodox, to the settlements. Again, in normal times, this could be a political decision that could be justified, perhaps. They are in power. But in times of war, this seems like really a lack of responsibility. I could say also, interestingly, that the stock market is now higher than it was before the war started. So you could see from that the threat of the legal revolution that the government was pushing towards is worse than the war itself for the economy.
Right.
So, and now the war has, in a sense, is good for the economy, despite the huge price in life and in money, because it reduces the probability that the Israeli government will continue with this revolution.
Well, let's touch a little bit more on that, because at first the shekel took a major hit. People were panic buying dollars, euros, moving assets out. But now it appears not only to have stabilized, and as you mentioned, the shekel's actually strengthened against major currencies. So how does one explain this peculiar financial trend depicting Israel's embattled but insanely resilient economy?
Yeah, I think that one should not try to seriously explain the short-run shocks to the shekel or the stock exchange. You know, people panic, and I think that the experts that ex post provide a rational explanation for everything are just, ex post rationalizing. It's not really anything serious. But I think that now that things have stabilized, and we see that the military is functioning, unlike what happened on October 7, where there was big question marks about the ability of the Israeli army to actually win this war. Now things look better on that front. And again, I think that in terms of the economy, as sad as it sounds, and it is sad that we needed the war in order to, well, I wouldn't say, I would be too optimistic if I would say to kill the legal revolution that Netanyahu and his government is trying to do. But the probability is much lower that they would do that. So we have a government that is really damaging the economy in a terrible way. And that's the big challenge of the state of Israel, not just the war. Of course, the war, as I said, is a huge cost, and every one of us would pay a high price over the years in higher taxes and less services from the government.
And Omer, just briefly, how exactly is the crisis that's unfolding now with the Red Sea, the Houthis as well as Iran targeting the shipping and the vessels that are heading toward the Red Sea? Oil prices are going up, delivery times are slowing down. It only accounts for 30% of Israeli imports, but 15% of global shipping.
Yeah, so of course that's another hit to the economy, but I think in the I would evaluate this in the big picture of the Israeli challenges to the economy as not something major. I suppose the world would do something about that. This is a threat that is worse for Egypt than for Israel. So there is here joint interests to go back to normal. And in a sense, this is quite similar to something we have experienced with during COVID, and then another shock to the world economy, the attack of Russia on Ukraine. So all of these issues, and now the Houthis attacks, I don't see that as a serious threat in the longer run to the Israeli economy.
All right, Professor Omer Moav, a professor of economics at Reichman University here in Israel and the University of Warwick in the United Kingdom. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you very much.